Hi, I'm Alex Anderson. Stained glass windows have been lighting up rooms since the Middle Ages, but recreating the look of stained glass on a quilt is not for the faint of heart. That is until today. We have an easy way to get this beautiful look, and we're doing it with some treasured American symbols. We're honoring Americana today on Simply Quilts. Welcome to Simply Quilts. I'm Alex Anderson. I just love looking at old stained glass windows, but taking the inspiration and turning it into a quilt, well, it's usually no easy task, at least for me. If the thought of all those tiny strips of black fabric leading intimidates you, maybe it's time we learn a simpler way from quilt designer Linda Everhart. Welcome to Simply Quilts, Linda.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you.
Well, there's so many wonderful stained glass techniques out there. Tell us about some of them and then how you landed on yours.
Well, I love stained glass quilts, and I love doing this technique. When I first started making stained glass, I learned a technique that was very difficult. It was reverse applique. It required that you would cut black pieces out, turn them under, and you would simply stitch a little square in, piece by piece. This was a very difficult process. After that, I tried using bias tape. Now, I love bias tape. It makes beautiful quilts, but I really wanted something easy. I wanted to do a quilt fast. I wanted to give a gift for a friend, and I just needed it to be easy.
That was my stained glass adventure, and it was a disaster.
It is difficult.
I know.
But I've got something easy for you.
I can't wait to see it because I fixed mine with black felt tip pen, trying to color it when the lining didn't work and stuff. So what's yours? Tell us the principles of yours.
Well, when I first begin, I will select my fabric.
Okay.
First of all, shopping's fun, of course, and you just go through the store, you look at fabrics that you like. First of all, I have some samples of sky and then water. And oh, here's a great tile for the floor for Uncle Sam. And then Uncle Sam always has red and blue. And I also like to choose medium fabrics. I don't like it too dark when I pick one.
Because the black is going to be against it.
Exactly. You'll lose your color if you use too dark of a color.
Well, let's take a look at Uncle Sam today. This quilt is charming and it has a story behind it.
Yes, Uncle Sam, when I made him real fast for market. I had like 3 weeks to make him. I had an exchange student that come and lived with us, and he was from Italy. And one of the first things he was talking about was the Statue of Liberty. And it was just real patriotic for him, so I made a quilt and designed this just for Luca.
So today you will show us what we need to know. Here is your drawing that you worked from. What are some of the important aspects when somebody draws a pattern or designs one for themselves?
When I begin to draw the pattern, I will use freezer paper, and you will draw on the other side. The shiny side's on the back, so just draw on the main side of freezer paper. You may have to tape 2 or 3 pieces together for the full size of the pattern. I like to use either a window or you can even put a window between 2 tables at home.
Right, right. Now, if you're drawing out your own pattern, let's say somebody's doing a drawing of, anything, a stained glass that they've inspired by, what do we need to know about the leading and the drawing lines?
Well, as you're drawing the pattern, you want to make sure that you have a good 1/4 inch line. This leading line right here, going into the border, is going to actually be your lead lines for your quilt. So, again, as you're drawing, draw the pattern, add your border to this quilt.
And then comes the back side. Flip this over. What do we do then?
Well, once you have your pattern, and we drew it on freezer paper, we have ironed it onto black fabric, and this underneath is the top side. And now we are adding the fusible webbing to set this up. You will iron your fusible webbing on the back, and you can tell this piece has already been done.
What weight fusible?
I like to use a lightweight fusible. There's a lot of different fusibles on the market. Just choose whatever you can find, but the one thing I want you to do is read the instructions for it. Some of them would tell you to use a cool iron, and it means it because if you use it too hot, you will melt the fusible webbing. The other thing that you need to do is when you're reading the instructions and it says to heat for 5 seconds or whatever the time is on the instructions, you will hold the iron, and I actually count to 5 seconds. and then I move it to the next spot and I hold the iron there again. As you can see, if you happen to look at this piece, you can actually see my iron imprints where I have held it for the required time. I think this process makes the paper much easier to come off the back.
I have to tell you, Linda, I go like this, and maybe that's part of the problem.
I did that for a long time too, and I had trouble removing the backing of this. Now as you have this, I have removed part of it, and we'll go ahead and remove the backing. This is how you start up. And what happens, this backing is going to make your black fabric adhesive.
Okay, well, I can't wait to get started on this. It sounds like you've got a lot of really great tips for us. Okay, we're all set up, and we'll start cutting our patriotic pains when we return. So stay with us.